Hi, good evening, guys. Welcome to the editorial session today. And we have been taking these editorial sessions now on a weekly basis. And we can increase the frequency based on your feedback after today. So last class, we did one editorial article. Today also, we will be taking a very, very interesting article, which is, on the ongoing Sri Lankan crisis. And this article, I have chosen for its length. It is a lengthy article. Hence, identification of central theme of this article will depend on a lot of factors. So I'm going to take you through those factors today. We will also discuss the tone of the passage, the tone of the author in the passage. And just like the other day, we will take up some word meanings, some interesting questions based on inference, and also, if possible, some strengthen and weaken questions. Right? So, with this, I hope you will understand how to read editorial articles and slowly get toward identifying the central theme on your own. So, I can see now that most of our viewers are back here. So let's do a quick screen test. Can you see so the passage starts from no calls. So can you see the screen and can you read? Let me know if you can. Give me a thumbs up if you can read. Great. So as you can see, the passage runs into 6 pages. We are going to read it. Last time in our discussion, in our editorial article discussion, I told you to read one paragraph and make short notes as to what the paragraph is saying. Then move to the next, then move to the next. So I'm going to start the reading time now. I will move on as you finish reading. You give me a thumbs up and I will scroll up. And your job is to jot down what each paragraph is saying and then combine those notes and come out with a central theme. So once we have finished reading once, I'm going to jot down what each paragraph is saying. I match your notes with my notes, and then we will use the notes to come out with the central theme. Now, many passages you will have to combine the notes that you make of each paragraph and come out with a central theme. However, some passages, you will notice that the paragraphs build up. With build up, I mean, they talk about what's going on, they talk about the history, and then the author suggests or gives a recommendation. In those passages, the recommendation is the central theme. In other passages, you may have to dig out from the passage what the author is trying to say. As you know, like the last passage we did, we made notes on the side and then we combined those notes. So I will leave you to discover what type of passage this is. And if you spot the central theme somewhere along this reading, right? So I'm coming out of the frame and your reading time begins. I have one paragraph here, and then the second paragraph begins from most importantly. As soon as you finish the first paragraph and the 3 lines of the second, give me a thumbs up or a go ahead. I will scroll up. Have you read the first paragraph? So I'm moving it up now. This is the second paragraph. So second paragraph done. I hope you're making notes on the side. Now we come to third and fourth paragraph. Para 3 and 4 done. So I'm going up again. Now we come to paragraph 5. Para 5 done. 6 and 7. Para 6 and 7. Give me a thumbs up, everyone, if you finished reading. Eight and 9 now. Eight and 9 done. Everyone, 8 and 9 done. I'm still on 9. So you're on the second last page now. Just one more paragraph after this. So this is the complete 11th paragraph. So I think 11th is done. Twelfth paragraph and then the last one. And finally, the last bit. So, all right, I think you guys have done your bit of reading now. Were you able to make notes of each paragraph? Keep answering the questions for me in the chat box. Were you able to make the notes for each paragraph? Should we go and match those notes now? All right. What is the note for the first paragraph? Let's write down the notes for the first paragraph, guys. In the first paragraph, the author seems to be praising the unity of the protests. Do you agree? The author is praising the unity of the protests. The author is saying that it wasn't a communal protest, no leaders were spearheading it. What is the significance of the word peoples over here? Who can tell me? Now, short questions which you have to notice. What is the significance of the word peoples over here? Yes, so I'm getting answers. Very good. Sanchari Mohanty, representing different ethnic groups. Sindhuja, diversity, very good. Chahat, very good. So all of you seem to have understood. Udit, right. Hasika, right. Chaitanya, right. So all these answers are correct. Right. Achal, Anshpriya, very true. So peoples here represents different ethnicities, which shows that it was not a politically motivated communal gathering, right? So all religions, all vocations, again shows that it wasn't a crowd that was gathered by a political biggie, right? And everyone was brought together because of the economic crisis. I hope you have been reading about the Lankan economic crisis. It's something which is in the news these days, and of course it is tragic, but it has brought all the leaders together. Now tell me, let's do vocabulary from the passage, which is again a question type that you get. What is the meaning of congregated? And what is the meaning of fastidious? What is the meaning of congregated and what is the meaning of fastidious? Can you try to find out the meaning from the passage? I've got the first answer from Vaibhav Chaudhary, gathered. Yes. Gathered as in the form of a group, right? Come together, assemble. No, Anshpriya, it's not arrived. It is coming together. It is gathering. Yes, Sanchari Mohanty, that's correct. Congregated. I hope you picked up this word for today. What about fastidious? Fastidious. We must have done this in your vocabulary classes also. Spontaneous, quickly. Okay. A better word for fastidious would be meticulous. Done it with great care. Isn't it? Care. I'll take your answer, Anand. Responsible. That's fine. Achal, yes, want to be perfect. So let's write perfectly. Fastidiously means without any mistake. Perfectly. Meticulously. Meticulous. Note it down. Right. So let's come to the second paragraph. In the second paragraph, also the author. In the second paragraph, also the author continues to praise this group, isn't it? Continues to praise this group and says that yes, there were some incidents of violence. Right? It says that they were armed only with the knowledge that violence would be used to delegitimize. So this means that the group was unarmed. I hope you understood this. This means that the group was unarmed. And here also the author continues to praise these efforts of the people. However, brings out some dark blemishes. What is a blemish? What is a blemish? Which was the ransacking of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's house. That, of course, was a blemish. However, the arsonery means fire and, the violence bit, which was done by the supporters of a political person. Very good. Blot, spot, scar. That's correct. So blemish is a scar or a blot, which means a bad thing. Right? Then we come to the third paragraph. What is the author saying in the third paragraph? In the third paragraph, the author talks about the history of this region, which means the Asian or the South Asian region. In the South Asian region, what is the history? The history of different takeovers, coups, military coups, judicial coups. A coup is an illegal takeover, right? A coup is an illegal takeover. A coup is an illegal takeover. And the author says in the fourth paragraph that no one would have imagined that such a regime change or overthrowing of the government will be done by a joint public. So the author takes you through the history of the region where there have been troubles and people have removed their government. So this history also comes in. So what is the continuity in the first four paragraphs? The continuity of the first four paragraphs. Why is the history being discussed? Why are other countries discussed? They are all being discussed to continue to praise the public effort of this Lankan, unity to overthrow a president who has failed to do his job. So we are still continuing with that thought. So is this unity in this public protest the central theme for us? We cannot know because we are still, almost in the middle. We need to actually move on further to see, is this the central theme? But right now, for the first 4 paragraphs, we are only seeing the praise for this effort. So is that the central theme? Right? So let's move on and check. Is everyone with me so far? If you are with me, you know what to do. Pull out a nice emoji, a smiley, a flag, to show that we are together so far. Right? As soon as I get the emoji, we will continue. Thank you so much. A slew of emojis are coming my way. It's not been raining at all in the north of the country, at least. It's very hot. So this downpour, this rain of lovely emojis is making it bearable. All right. No, it's not the central theme, Achal. I'm saying, is it the central theme? I'm asking you. So right now we haven't finished doing the central theme. Now, one step towards the central theme is this very important question that comes up here, but what next? This is the point which tells you, that the aim of this passage is not just to praise the public protest, the clean public protest that happened in Sri Lanka. It was not led by any leader, everyone assembled as one. So the author is moving on from that praise. So when the author moves on from a point, that means while that point, but it itself is not the central theme. While that point is essential, it itself is not the central theme, right? So what next is the question that tells us now the author is coming to another point. So one of the sub-themes is praising of this lovely protest. I mean, it's a sad and tragic thing, right? It's a sad and tragic thing that the country has to undergo such severe economic crisis where they have no dollars left and they cannot buy fuel, there is no food. But that's something which the praising of the public part is over. Now we are moving on. Now this juncture was critical, and this is the reason why we chose this editorial article for today for you, to show that even in the first 3-4 paragraphs, a thought which is continuing may not be the thought with which the author ends the passage. So we have to see the whole thing in totality. So were the 3 or 4 paragraphs that we just read waste? No, they were not waste. They have a role to play. They have shown that Sri Lanka is almost there as a united people, or peoples as the author calls it. Now what is coming up? So Gota is the name of the president, right? Gotabaya. So Gota go home was a literal call. It was also a call for deeper change. So I think this is the start of the new theme. For a new social contract, right? Historic opportunity to reform Sri Lanka, right? Now the author brings in tidbits from history. Even if you don't know what happened in 1931, even if you don't know that tidbit, still can you understand these words that I have underlined? Deeper change, social contract, historic opportunity for Sri Lanka to reform, right? Even if I don't know this 1931 reference, it does not matter. Even if it is a part of your passage, it will not hamper you from answering any question, because no one is going to ask you what happened in 1931. It's not a history test. Only what is written will be asked. Yes, what is the meaning of peoples was asked, it will still be asked. Those references of words you have to understand, but no reference of history do you have to reproduce if it is not written. Right? So now it feels as if this is the new central theme beginning here. Not new, but this is the actual central theme beginning over here. So we move on. And now we come to the Lankan history. Right? So some part of Lankan history is here. The independence, and then Tamils. How did the Tamils come over here? So history of Tamils over here as a separate ethnic group from the Sinhalese. The Sinhalese that are the majority there. So now the author talks about those academics, again goes into history, those who documented all the atrocities that were committed between the two groups. Right? What is the meaning of stillborn? At a point, the author describes 1948 as the fatal year when Sri Lanka's democracy was stillborn. So maybe you do not know the history, but with this much reading, you can still give the meaning, the reference to context of stillborn. I am not getting very good answers. Okay, I'll take Udit Rajveer's answer, not a vibrant. Anshpriya, that's correct. Lifeless. So stillborn is not the same as just born. Yes, stillborn means just born, but whoever is born dead. One that is born but not breathing. So all those of you, Chaitanya, Hasika, and Weber, if you're saying new as your meaning, that's not the correct answer, because new will also be one of the options. But will you mark new as the answer? Or will you mark something which also says, yes, newly born, but lifeless or dead as the answer? Have you understood this reference? So in 1948, why is that a fatal year and democracy is still born? Because go back, line 1 tells you that Sri Lanka became independent in 1948. That means this was the first time that Sri Lanka came on its own. It was the birth of the democracy. But this democracy was lifeless. Why is the author calling it lifeless? You can get the answer from these two paragraphs. The author is calling it lifeless because at the start of the democracy only, the Lankan Tamils were removed from voting. So if a minority group is removed from voting, then can you still call a country democratic? Can you still call that country democratic? A democracy means the minority has the same rights as the majority. So now do you understand why the author was calling Lankan democracy stillborn? Because Lanka gained the democracy, but they were not acting as truly democratic because they were, they removed the rights of the Tamilians, which was promised to them in the constitution. So this reference of stillborn, have you understood? It did not require you to know history. Whatever little history the author has given here was enough to answer this. So this much you have to be able to answer in your passage. Yes, what happened in 1931, details that are not given here are not going to be asked. Great. So after this, the author, now why is the author talking about this history? Why is the author telling us about the stillborn democracy? The author is trying to justify why the author has written this line, that it hopefully it will be able to bring in a deeper change. Remember this line on deeper change that we discussed? So why is history required here? History is required here to understand what the author means by the word deeper change. History is required over here to understand why the author is praising this united people. Because Sri Lanka has this very scarring history where right from the beginning, the minority were not given rights and there were a lot of atrocities committed. Hence, the author is giving us the list of atrocities and the research done by the academics. Again, now you see after history, the author goes back to the protesters. Again, the author repeats that those who came on the streets did not just come to remove the Rajapakshas. They came for systemic change. That means the praise of the protesters is not the central theme anymore. The author has moved on to a bigger topic, which is systemic change within Sri Lanka. Right? So again, the author repeats this paragraph in the middle of history and in the middle of another paragraph where the author has said it already. So this means now this paragraph is important for central theme. This is how you recognize, because you will not be told. I have already discussed in classes that boss, central theme does not mean last paragraph, first paragraph, whatever you hear on other YouTube videos, right? So this is an authentic YouTube screening that's happening for you and not the ones that I described in the classroom. Now this paragraph is important for central theme, right? Now, what we are seeing in India today, this is Citizenship Act, etc. Sri Lanka has already faced it. Can you see? Again, we go back to history. So what we are seeing here, you can see it's happened here already in Sri Lanka, and they created a lopsided country with Sinhalese majority, right? And the two dominant parties over there were Sinhalese parties. Again, we go back to history over here. Let's go up. That war ended. But what remained in the war was that the Rajapakshas did not win peace, right? Because they wanted to play the majority card. They wanted to talk about Sinhalese Buddhist nationalism. And hence, the minority, even after 13 years, feels that they were cheated. So here we talk about the Tamil suffering. So again, after the important paragraph, we come to history, we come to Tamil suffering. Also, the author talks about other minorities suffering. There was an anti-Muslim communalism also, right? And there was a person, again a religious figure. Sounds familiar, guys? So something that you see also right now in your current situation in the country, that time Sri Lanka has already done it. There was a religious group, a leader. There were other minorities also suffering. So all this history the author is talking about. Not just was that leader sentenced, but talks about the history where he was let off and the current president appointed that leader as in a major political role. So all this I think you have read. So much so that the Tamils are still not very happy with what happened with them. They jeered at the efforts of the other people. Now, the other people were trying to take the whole thing along. The other people wanted it to be a systemic change. But the Tamils are still very bitter. And finally, the author says that this is the opportunity. So what we started by saying systemic change, the author says, this is the opportunity. The people should unite and bring the systemic change. And the author calls for systemic change and ethnic reconciliation. Can you see it? Systemic change and ethnic reconciliation. So what is the central theme? Here the author begins by praising the public protest, gets into history to bring out a bigger issue, which is ethnic reconciliation. For so many years that the minorities were not given their rights in the country, the author feels hopefully they will participate in the government also. And at this moment, Sri Lanka will be able to bring in proper, deeper change. Right? Is this central theme clear to everyone? Give me a thumbs up. I'm waiting for the thumbs up quickly. What is the meaning of the word contentious here? Can you give me the meaning of the word contentious? Let's do some word meanings. Contentious. And the other meaning that we want here is elusive. Elusive, contentious. Very good, Vaibhav Chaudhary. Contentious means controversial. Contentious means controversial. What is the meaning of elusive? Yes, contentious means controversial. Something which is open to debate, disagreement. What is the meaning of elusive? Elusive means something which is hard to get. Something which is hard to get. Something which escapes you. Right? So what has been elusive? The ethnic reconciliation has been elusive for Sri Lanka. So that is elusive, something which is hard to get, something which escapes you. Got it? Okay. Is there any word that you want to ask that you did not understand? Any word? Okay, give me the meaning of the word intractable. Intractable. And secession. Give me the meaning of the word intractable. Patronage means someone's blessing. It could be through money. It could be support. Yes, very good, Nityam Modi. Intractable means something which cannot be, handled. Something that will not listen easily, difficult to control. Yes, Vaibhav, that's correct. Secession means to break away. Secession means to separate or to break away. Great. So I think you have got those words. All right. So how was the passage, children? Did you like the passage? Were you able to answer the questions? And did you understand the central theme? How for the first half of the passage we were on something? So always remember, the author gives you information because the author wants this to reach somewhere. So the praising, the history, everything was for a bigger motive of the author. And this big motive of the author in this case was to talk about this public now to embrace their minorities, to include them in the government, right? And to ensure that now they are united forever. Okay? Yes, so the central theme was that the author is hoping that this momentous period in Sri Lankan history will bring about bigger systemic change. Right? Will bring about bigger systemic change. So that's nice. Yes, Nityam, actually the passage wasn't easy. It was easy for you because you are Clat Possible. And I'm sure all of you are going to make it possible this year as well. I won't call it easy as such, but because you guys have been good, you have been practicing and reading, right? So, yes, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So we are planning to at least do a weekly session on editorials like this. We can increase its frequency also. If you would like us to do that, please share that in the chat box. And I hope you enjoyed the editorial session for today. You understood the thing with central theme. And we will try to bring in more and more different types of editorials so that you know how to identify the central theme for all types of passages. Right? So all of you have a great evening ahead. And I will see you very soon with another editorial article and another way to identify the central theme, answer questions in context, answer questions for inference. Right? Thank you so much, guys.